Hello and welcome to the Unit 2, Section 3 video on solving multi-step inequalities. So this is going to be very similar to what we did in the last section. Only difference is we're going to have more steps to get to our solution. So let's remind you about how we solved a multi-step equation. We used don't call me after midnight. Well, we are going to use that again for inequalities. Remember, don't stands for distribute. That's the first thing you're going to have to do. And then after you distribute anything there is to distribute, you're going to combine like terms. And then you're going to move the variable, get the variable onto one side. Preferably the left side, so we don't have to worry about doing that flip later on. And then after is add and subtract, and then midnight stands for multiply and divide. So now that we have reminded you about the steps that we use to do multi-step equations, let's solve multi-step inequalities using this method. So let's take a look at example 1. So we have negative 4 is greater than or equal to 4p minus 5p. First thing we're going to do is we are going to combine our like terms because there's nothing to distribute. And when we combine like terms, we get negative p on this side. But we don't want negative p, we want just p by itself. So we are going to divide each side by negative 1. And when we do that, we're going to get 4 on this side. But over here on this side, we're going to get p, but we divided by a negative, so we're going to have to flip our inequality. And we're going to have to flip the whole thing to get the p on the left-hand side. Now that we have the p on the left-hand side, we can plot our solution. So we've got a filled-in dot for 4, and we're going to go to the right because our inequality is pointing to the right. Because we have greater than, we are filling in everything that's greater than 4. All right, let's take a look at example 2. So for example 2, we're going to have to combine like terms. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0, so that leaves us with 4a on the left-hand side. And then we divide each side by 4, and we get a is less than negative 2. So we have an open dot at negative 2, and since we're less than, we're going to the left. For number 3, we have two x terms on the right side, so we are going to start by combining our x terms. So 8x plus x gives us 9x. Then we add 4 to each side, and we get 9 is less than 9x. And we divide each side by 9. And we get 1 is less than x, but we need the x on the other side, so x is greater than 1. We're going to do an open dot at 1, and we're going to go to the right. For number 4, we're going to distribute first. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times negative 2k is negative 12k. And we have all that less than 90. Subtract 6 from each side, and you get negative 12k is less than 84. And then we divide each side by negative 12, remembering that when we divide by a negative, we're going to have to flip the inequality. And you use your calculator, and you can get k is greater than negative 7. So we're going to plot an open dot at negative 7, which is right between negative 6 and negative 8. And we're going to go to the right. For number 5, we are going to distribute. We have negative 25x. 5 times 6 gives us 30. That's greater than or equal to 155. Then we're going to subtract 30 from each side. And that's going to give us negative 25x is greater than or equal to 125. And then we divide each side by negative 25. And when we do that, we remember we have to flip our inequality, and we get negative 5. So, close dot at negative 5, and we're plotting to the left. Okay, for the number 6, we are going to distribute first. So negative 7 times negative 4 gives us positive 28n. Negative 7 times positive 7 gives us negative 49. Now we're going to combine like terms. We have two terms with n in it on this side. So we're going to combine those terms, and that gives us 23n minus 49. Now we're going to add 49 to each side. And that's going to give us 184 is less than or equal to 23n. And then we're going to divide by 23. And that will give us 8 is less than or equal to n. And we flip the whole thing to get n is greater than or equal to 8. So we're going to have a closed dot at 8. And we are going to shade to the right. For number 7, we have two different things to distribute, so we can do both of those in one step. So negative 7 times 5 gives us negative 35n. Negative 7 times 7 gives us negative 49. Then we go and do this one. 3 times 7 is plus 21n. And then 3 times negative 2 is minus 6. Now we're going to combine all of our like terms. We have two terms with n in it. So when we combine the negative 35n with the positive 21n, that gives us negative 14n. And then when we combine negative 49 with negative 6, we get negative 55. Now we're going to add 55 to each side. And that's going to give us 42 is greater than negative 14n. And then we can divide each side by negative 14. Dividing each side by negative 14 means that we are going to have to flip our inequality. So we have negative 3 is less than n, but the n is on the right side. To get it on the left, we got to flip everything again, and we got n is greater than negative 3. So we're going to put an open dot at negative 3, and since we're greater than, we're going to the right. For number 8, again, we have two different things to distribute, so we will do so. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6x. Then we have negative 8 times negative x, which gives us positive 8x. And then we have negative 8 times 3, which gives us negative 24. We're going to combine all of our like terms. So 8x minus 6x gives us 2x. 3 minus 24 gives us negative 21. We're going to add 21 to each side, and that's going to give us negative 14 is less than 2x. And then dividing each side by 2 gives us negative 7 is less than x. Flipping the whole thing gives us x is greater than negative 7. So since x is greater than negative 7, we're going to have an open dot at negative 7, and then we're going to shade to the right. For number 9, we have 6 times 7, which is 42. We have 6 times 4n, which gives us 24n. We still have this plus 1 sitting here, and then we've got less than 91. So now, let's combine like terms. 42 plus 1 gives us 43, so we've got 24n plus 43 is less than 91. Subtract 43 from each side, and that gives us 24n is less than 48. And then dividing each side by 24 gives us n is less than 2. So we have an open dot at 2, and since we're less than, we're going to the left. And then finally, number 10. We have something to distribute, so we'll do that first. 8 times 4 gives us a 32. 8 times negative 6b gives us negative 48b. We're going to combine our like terms. 5 plus 32 gives us 37. Now we're going to subtract 37 from each side. So that gives us 336 on the left. We still have negative 48b on the right. So now we're going to divide each side by negative 48 to get b by itself. That gives us negative 7. We divided by a negative, so we have to flip our sign. It's greater than or equal to b. And now we're going to flip the whole solution. So b is less than or equal to negative 7. Less than or equal to means we're going to fill in the dot at negative 7. And since we are less than, we're going to the left. So that finishes off the section on multi-step inequalities. In our next section, we are going to talk about special solutions. Remember, we had special solutions for equations in the last unit. Same holds true for inequalities. So coming up in the next section, I'll show you what those look like.